has finally launched a much expected attack on not on Iran, but on the Revolutionary Guard, nuclear site, nuclear facilities, nuclear development facilities, and decapitated virtually the Iranian Air Force and the Revolutionary Guard in the process. That has led to much confusion in Iran, which still managed to respond with about 100 drones and missiles launched against the Israeli city of Tel Aviv. Not more than 2 hours ago, I was talking with people still in shelters there. This is very much as expected. And contrary to what some people believe, this will not lead to a wider war or World War III, as some like to exaggerate. Uh, but it is apparently the first step in a process that will lead to peace and prosperity in the Middle East, like it has never known in modern times. As Iran launched over 100 missiles and drones against Tel Aviv, of course, the Israeli defenses scrambled, the Iron Dome was activated. There were also batteries, pad batteries on the ground, that it is a secret of a formal secret, but everybody knows were operated by American uh, personnel. And other countries, even Turkey and Qatar, quite unexpectedly, certainly Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Jordan, joined Israel in shooting down those missiles. If there is a widening of the conflict at all, it seems to be that most of the Arab countries, if not all, in the Middle East are willing, despite the rhetoric, to support Israel and help defend it against Iranian missiles. It would seem that Iran has not made many friends in the neighborhood. Well, that is something on those lines was forwarded by President Trump, but it is entirely dependent on Iran. Iran can, at this point, uh, take the offer uh, extended by President Trump, return to the negotiating table, and accept the inevitability that there is no deal without a full dismantling of its nuclear weapons program. That there can be no enrichment, that there can be no secret facilities, and then we can have a peace deal with the current regime in Iran. I have the impression, though, that the Islamic Republic is not prepared to accept such a deal, not yet, at any rate, and that such efforts are doomed to failure without the recognizing that things have changed. Well, there are two things here. Trump never told Israel not to strike Iran. And in point of fact, he was announcing to the world, I gave Iran 60 days to reach a peace deal. Today is day 61. I told them things would get ugly, and things would get even uglier if they don't change their mind. It's simply untrue that the United States sort of forbade Israel to attack Iran, although in military operations, there is always a degree of deception. And an apparent rift between Israel and the US may have led the military uh, officers of the Islamic Republic to lower their guard, to not anticipate that an attack was this imminent. And that was a mistake on their part. Well, for the Houthis, this is not good news. The Houthis cannot survive without being supplied with weapons and resources by Iran. And this will lead to a position in which the Houthis will be completely cut off from outside assistance. And I have the impression, and it's just my impression, that the Saudis will have something to say. Well, unfortunately for the militia groups, in the past 2 years, they have been decimated. Neither Hezbollah nor Hamas nor the Houthis have the firepower they did 3 years ago. And none of them, and certainly not Iran, have realized that October 7th marked a change in paradigm. If Israel was somewhat willing to live in a constant state of conflict, uh, activating the Iron Dome when necessary, capturing terrorists entering its territory, and moving along, October 7th changed that. It became a game of survival. Israel cannot afford to have a nuclear Iran next door, and it cannot afford to have active militias in Lebanon, Gaza, or Yemen. And they will use all the weaponry at their disposal, much of which we have not seen in use yet, to stop. You've seen, you showed me a nice picture of Tel Aviv. It's a beautiful city. I don't see bombs raining in Tel Aviv. I see bombs exploding in midair. Inevitably, some of them will get through. One did yesterday. There is a woman who just died in hospital of the wounds inflicted by that missile, and about 14 people treated for an anxiety attack. They're not going to be mounting casualties. And while a missile may hit here or there, usually in apartment buildings, notice this one too. All of the Israeli attacks have been carried out against military targets. But Iran is desperately trying to inflict civilian casualties. It's not going to happen. The Israeli defenses are too good for that. Yeah, well, if those militias are respond to Iran, the Iraqi government has no control over them and never did. They respond to commands from Iran. Iraq should have to take very seriously the possibility that they need to eradicate militias controlled by foreign powers in its territory. Many of these drones and missiles fired at Israel have indeed been shot down over Iraq and over Saudi Arabia and over Jordan and over Syria. All of these countries so far, I'm not speaking for Iran, but I do have confirmation that even Qatar, that condemned Israel's attack on Iran, has actually participated in taking down these missiles. Uh, Iraq must assist in destroying these missiles to the extent that they can. And for their own safety and security and peace, they must control all militias that respond to a foreign power, including Iran. Absolutely. This is the second time that the air forces of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Jordan, Egypt, this time even Turkey, have taken to the air not to bomb Israel, but to protect it. That is a seismic change in the relations in the area. 20 years ago, I would have never imagined that I would have seen Jordanian, Saudi, Egyptian planes taking down missiles aimed at Israel to protect its integrity. It was unthinkable. But the unthinkable is now a reality. And this is what makes me particularly optimistic that in the not too distant future, with the threat of the Islamic Republic removed, because I'd like to point out this is not against the Iranian people, this is not against Iran, this is against a particular regime that has been uh, uh, particularly cruel with the Iranian people. Uh, I, I think that somewhere in heaven, Miss Amini is smiling as this is going on because her tormentors are dead today. So, Masha Amini, we all remember that, and I'm sure in Kurdistan as much as we do here. Uh, but all of this change, all of these Arab countries assisting Israel against what they perceive as a common enemy. They don't want a nuclear Iran any more than Israel does. And that's why they are assisting. Uh, this will pave the road for for Saudi Arabia's full integration into the Abraham Accords, and that will create a momentum that may change the face of the Middle East from one of war, strife, and militias to one of trade, commerce, and prosperity. It's entirely up to Iran. They can still send, of course, the lead negotiator is now dead, but they can still send a delegation and they can still reach an agreement that implies a verifiable uh, destruction of their nuclear program with full access to the IAEA and other inspectors from the US and elsewhere to ensure that they do indeed dismantle their military nuclear program. Without that, there is not going to be a stop to military action in Iraq until the last of their laboratories, facilities, missile factories are gone. So, is there a chance? Yes, but it's entirely up to Iran. The time for pushing negotiations forward, expecting that we're gonna get there before they can do anything, is done. It's gone, and it's not coming back. So if Iran if the regime in Iran wants to survive, I would like to underscore there is no indiscriminate bombing of cities in Iran. This is not a war against Iranian people. I spoke with friends of mine in Tehran who were literally having a party celebrating the events of the day because they see that as the prologue to deliverance. Now, what will happen in Iran, nobody knows. We may end up with a caretaker government. We may end up with Reza Pahlavi or the MEK. They can move forward or move backwards. We don't know that yet. It is entirely up to the people of Iran. Now, whether there is a peace deal that stops military action, it's entirely up to the leadership of the Islamic Republic. My experience since 1979 is that they will simply not do it. Well, that would be nice indeed. Nobody likes war, nobody likes death, and especially peoples that have endured war have no taste for it. That said, the West and Israel have been negotiating with Iran fruitlessly for decades, and Iran has never shown any inclination to accommodate the legitimate concerns and fears of their neighbors, of Israel, and of the West. Under those conditions, Israel will continue to strike military facilities until there is no capacity for Iran to launch any attack anywhere in the world. And in doing so, it will cut off Iran's proxies in Yemen, in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Lebanon, in Syria, and I dare say in Iraq. And that is going to usher in an era of peace for the region, like it has not known since 1979. Because even though there was always war, it was limited in its scope. And Beirut was a wonderful city, a destination for tourism from around the world up until 1975, even though there were regional wars in the area. But many countries enjoyed Turkey. They enjoyed a prosperous life until terrorism began to rise as a tool for power. Without the end of these terrorist militias, without the end of these terrorist armies, there will never be peace. And that can only be accomplished if Iran is willing to do it, if Iran is willing to close its nuclear weapons development program and ballistic missile program and cut off the supplies to these proxies around the world. And if they don't do that, I don't think there is much room for any more negotiations. We have moved from negotiating to an ultimatum. Stop doing this, or we're not going to have the ability to do it